listeners, welcome to Rising Above Shadows of Abuse, RASA. Today's topic is based on calls conducted on resentments in relationships. What are the causes? How can resentments be avoided? Resentment in a relationship can stem from a variety of causes, including neglect, lack of support, lack of intimacy, unresolved conflicts, lack of trust, and control issues, just to name a few. It's essential to recognize these causes and work towards resolving them to prevent the feelings of resentment from taking hold or destroying your relationships. It is normal to feel resentment, which involves feelings of anger or bitterness over a slight injustice or a major incident. Continuing to hold on to these feelings, however, can have negative consequences for your physical and mental health. It is normal to feel resentment, which involves feelings of anger or bitterness over a slight injustice or a major incident. Continuing to hold on to these feelings, however, can have negative consequences for your physical and mental health. What are these consequences? A variety of things can cause these complex emotions. Resentment happens when you feel like you've been taken advantage of, have been mistreated, or and been hurt, often defined as a feeling of indignation. Unfortunately, resentment can unleash other destructive thoughts and emotions. Resentment can ultimately poison relationships if left unresolved or unchecked. What are the common sources of resentment that lead to these intense emotions? Common sources are jealousy, betrayal, embarrassment, pain, trauma, sharing your needs and not having them met, feeling entitled, believe they should be met, not identifying and settling your past boundaries and having them violated, communicating boundaries and having them violated, hoping someone will read your mind and then becoming resentful and upset that they did not. In romantic relationships, especially long-term ones, one partner might resent the other because of an imbalance in power or workload. For example, it's not uncommon for a wife or a woman in a heterosexual relationship to feel like she's had to work a job, take care of the house, or take care of most of the housework, and oversee children and household, and oversee childcare and household labor, while her partner focuses only on work. Resentment in an intimate romantic relationship might flourish when one person always initiates sex and the other never does, or in a case common to seniors, when one person faces medical challenge and their significant other steps up to their caregiver. The caregiver might grow resentful as their own needs go unmet, and that can create tension in the relationship. It is tricky to recognize signs of resentment. This is because it's a multi-layered emotion that may combine myriad of feelings at the same time. Overall, a resentful person feels like they've been wronged. They may be tense when they are around the person they believe wronged them. They might avoid conflict with the one involved, ruminate or think obsessively and not be able to stop thinking about the incident or interaction. They may also talk badly about the person behind their back, refuse to admit they are upset or talk about the situation at all, might pull away emotionally and physically from the person they feel resentful towards. What are the feelings that can contribute or may indicate resentment? Feelings that indicate resentment include sadness, disappointment, frustration, hostility, hard feelings and anger, bitterness, fear, blame or self-blame, feeling guilty, less than, not enough, regret, injustice or imbalance in the relationship. Are there any benefits of resentment? Although it might seem counterintuitive, the person who feels resentful has some advantage. Here are some not so obvious ways you might actually feel better or have feelings of resentment than address them. This includes protecting yourself when you are resentful. It can help you protect yourself, feel safe from vulnerability and being hurt again. It can also promote your own feelings of self-worth. You can develop a sense of control and power. You might avoid addressing deeper issues in yourself the other person or the relationship. Avoid difficult communication and conflict. You might also avoid responsibility and next steps. In spite of all the above, it's important to remember that continuing to harbor resentment can ultimately harm your relationships if not addressed through healthy communication. It's not a productive way to handle conflict and move forward within a relationship. Holding grudges or resentment can affect your mental health, and without effective communication or problem solving with the other person, you can get stuck in feeling of ill will. Persistent resentment in a relationship will naturally create a wedge between you and the other person. If you try to discuss the matter and your partner stonewalls you, that is, they might close up all over again. That can lead to a feeling of isolation, withdrawal, and disconnection. It might even spell the end of the relationship completely. When this happens, you might not have a way to vent or to gain an opportunity for perspective or to heal. What are the strategies to help you manage resentment? Ways that you can manage your resentment or to ultimately resolve these negative feelings. You might need to take the first step and admit there is a problem. Once you have done that, the ways to handle resentment is to change your mindset, the perception, and emotional response. You need to develop self-compassion. Being resentful as a coping mechanism may have worked in the short term, but be kind to yourself. You're human who made mistakes. View the situation with empathy. When you take the viewpoint of the other person and see the situation from their perspective, you might have a different take on what happened. Grateful. Gratitude actually makes you happier. If you're envious because your work colleague won a special award, keep in mind that according to one scientific study, benign, motivating, and positive envy will appear in those who cultivate gratitude rather than the malicious, slandering type of envy. Give yourself and others. Although it might be hard to let go of resentment, making peace with what happened increase your sense of well-being as well as your sense of purpose in life. Reflect and identify the source of resentment. It's something that you can address through clear and courageous communication. Practice doing so by communicating needs. Practice doing so by communicating needs, boundaries, and requests. If the resentment is stemming from a situation that is out of your control, acknowledge the feelings arising from that, such as grief or rage, and then practice acceptance and focusing on what you can control once the feeling has been processed. If you are still angry, look into anger management therapy. There's multiple approaches to dealing with your anger. These approaches can help you reduce anger-inducing situations, improve your self-control, and teach you how to cope in a healthier way. Such therapeutic management includes cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. This is a go-to treatment for anger management. You can overcome resentment and repair frail relationships. If you're still struggling, seek couples counseling or relationship counseling. This can be in-person therapy or online therapy. What are the 10 steps in letting go of resentment? Approach resentment as the addictive state of mind it is. Realize that you are using resentment to replicate old dramas. And realize that you're using resentment to replicate old dramas and acknowledge that you cannot change the past. 3. Acknowledge that you cannot control those who have rejected you. 4. Examine how your resentment may come from mentally confusing people in your present life with people from your past. 5. Learn to identify signals that provoke resentment. Apply the acronym HALT, widely used in 12-step programs: angry, lonely, and tired. 6. Recognize that your resentment gives you only illusions of strength. Instead, highlight and validate your real strength and power. Practice cognitive behavioral techniques. To stop indulging in resentment. Put a thought between your feelings of resentment and indulging in ruminating about it. 8. Declare an amnesty with the person you resent and with yourself. 9. Acknowledge your part in allowing the abuse to occur. Forgive yourself for that and make a decision to not let it occur again. 10. Forgive when you can and practice willful and deliberate forgetfulness when you cannot. Keeping in mind that these acts are gifts to yourself rather than a mutilation to the people you resent. This is from Mark Sishaw and Very Well Mind. Hope you've enjoyed this particular episode, and do make sure that do something by your resentment. Bye for now. See you on our next episode. This has been Grace Upper, Rising Above Shadows of Abuse, RASA. Be safe and be positive. Contact us on risingaboveshadowsofabuse@gmail.com and leave your comments or your views on this particular topic. Take care.